Hello, viewers. Welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA and Jaipur Dialogue. And today we are going to talk about a very significant issue which is related to Israel, Hamas, Gulf area, and how it is developing and shaping up. How will it impact us? What are the implications of the various steps being taken or various missteps happening? To talk about this, today we have a great pleasure in welcoming Asha Jadeja Motwani, a name which is very much known to majority of Indian Americans, as Asha remains remarkably active in her speech, in her word, and social media presence. An amazing philanthropist who has also supported and invested with more than 100 Indian startups. So Asha, welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA and Jaipur Dialogue for the first time. And I hope this will be in addition to many more that we will do. And of course, our usual Sanjay Dixit ji, is there anybody who doesn't know him? So no introduction required. So thank you for letting me open the batting since the World Cup cricket is going on. So I use that analogy. Asha ji, the question that I had in mind is following President Biden's statement yesterday, where he addressed to the nation, and he made a rather bizarre equivocation between Israel and Ukraine at the same time, and also asking money for both countries, recognizing fully well that both entities are remarkably different, issues are different, challenges are different. At the same time, he made a statement which kind of made me feel bizarre. He talked about anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in America of 21st century, 2023. Your thoughts?
So I think after 9/11, right, Vibhuti, as we were talking just before the show, after 9/11, what has happened is that there has been an explosion of thinking within the US, where Americans woke up and said, "Ye log hack on. Why did they do 9/11? Why was there a bombing?" And I think there has been, and once again, there's been a massive awareness within the US that there is a group of people called Islamists, Muslims, whatever one calls. Islamists are typically the ones referred to as those who seek Islamic supremacism. And these people are basically seen in the US as a danger, not just to the United States, but also globally, and people don't understand them. And so there has been, and because there are so many of them on the FBI list now, what's happened is that there has been a general sense of within the civic community, within civil society, there has been a general resistance to accept Muslims as kind of non-threatening, regular Americans. And Muslims don't assimilate in the US, and generally they don't. I would say large numbers of Muslims unfortunately don't assimilate in foreign countries too well. So there tends to be a suspicion there. But on Biden's question about anti-Semitism versus sort of Islamophobia, I think the anti-Semitism is a whole different beast. Listen, hatred and otherness is an old human trait. It resides in human brains, especially in the animal brain that humans have. Actually, we have a reptilian brain still left in our human brains, which actually does create that sense of security or insecurity, creates otherness. We do that. Actually, a lot of people fall prey to that, even within, let's say, a community. Let's say in a peaceful country like India, it's very easy to other somebody based on, let's say, the certain, could be a caste or could be something else. Okay, could be color, could be religion. So these are innate things that happen in human nature. But what's happening right now in the US is that what is surprising, Islamophobia, I'm not surprised, because it was 9/11 and nobody knew what the Islamic world was like in those days. Anti-Semitism to me is a shock right now, because it is US has such a massive Jewish population, and it has got great sensitivity to what happened in the Holocaust. Americans overwhelmingly believe in the right of Israelis to have a country of their own. So ये नया जो anti-Semitism वो कहाँ से आ रहा है? I think that is something that we all need to be very aware of, because as I was telling you before the show, I actually think that what's coming out of Gaza right now is orchestrated from Harvard University, Brown University, Columbia University. There's literally one-page documents that are going from here into Gaza, into the hands of people like Mohammed Deif, and they orchestrate strategy sitting here in America, sitting here in New York City or at Harvard or somewhere. So this is a very, very tricky situation right now. It's a very problematic situation because we have never seen this level of anti-Semitism, which means that people are succeeding, those who are anti-Semitic are succeeding in shifting the narrative from, Israelis having a right of to their own statehood to a narrative now where people in Europe are saying that Israelis are settlers. This is a very, very, very dangerous dog whistle. When you call them settlers, then what you are doing is you are declaring them non-civilian. And when it's a non-civilian, then you are saying that that's a combatant. So then there's a slippery slope that arises from somebody like Professor Zareen Greva, who is sitting in her comfortable situation at Yale University. She's sitting in her ivory tower, right? Calling the people in the kibbutz who got massacred, calling them settlers. वो settlers नहीं है. Israel is their own country. They are sitting in their home, and they have a right to their nationhood. They have a right to their own state. But how dare people in Yale and Harvard sit around there calling them settlers? Because once you call them settlers and you call Israel an apartheid state, what you are saying is that these are combatants, they're not civilians. It's okay to kill them. This is a problem. And it's a very, very dangerous situation we are in. And American academia needs to be held responsible for this level of hate that they are generating.
That's scary that America itself is doing what it is supposed to be doing. Sanjay ji, you had a marvelous conversation with Vijaya ji and Rajiv Malhotra ji on this very issue, and we have had extensive conversation with them.
Actually, our conversation was mainly with respect to the Hindu hatred or the Hinduphobia that has become endemic in the American academic scene. And specifically, Rajiv ji talked about what's going on in Harvard. And of course, the example of how the Jewish population dealt with this was taken. And I think it was very, very informative. And I think the Hindus there, though of course Hindus are in much smaller numbers. I think total number of Hindus about 50, 60 lakhs. Or what is it?
We are about 4 to 5 million here.
Yeah.
And the Indian population, Sanjay, largely is Hindu in America.
Yes.
Okay. And 4 to 5 millions. And the Jews are about 8 million. So it's a similar demography. But as per capita income, the Indians rank the highest in America. But they are not able to leverage this power. Whereas the Jewish population was able to leverage it so strongly that I think Asha ji will probably bear me out, that many large universities were actually quaking in fear. And all those students who were instigated by the faculties to sign those testimonials, they had to actually either withdraw or to apologize or to just simply run for cover. So I just want to ask Asha ji, why can't we leverage it that way?
So the reason we are not doing much right now, Sanjay, is because we are not organized. Number one, we have been a quiet community that has come here on merit. Right? It's people who are coming from IITs and BITS Pilani and Delhi University and Bombay University, Hyderabad, Osmania, blah, blah. So there's some of the best students coming from India. So there is no doubt that as a merit-based society living in the US, we have been quietly kind of doing our own, computer science, engineering, electrical engineering, work. Our degrees are also very STEM, very engineering, medicine oriented. We are in this country, we are really I would say the DNA of medicine, Silicon Valley, to some extent, even finance and academia. So we've been a quietly, wildly successful community. We have never really worried about being attacked by this or that, simply because we have never been attacked. The attacks are new. unlike the Jewish people who've been attacked for over a century all over, we Hindus have been seen as harmless people who are nerdy. And so nobody really wants to bother us because we're just seen as, the model minority, geeky, nerdy people, doctors, engineers, apna karte rehte hai, they are quiet, sometimes even seen as pushovers. But what has happened now is that you're right that because of our wealth, and Indian diaspora in general being very wealthy in every foreign country, what's happened is suddenly there is this there's a narrative building that's going on from those who are opposed to Hindus. Generally, there is a Hindu hatred that is arising very much like anti-Semites, and it's happening by the same people. So the same folks who have been, who have trained their guns on the Jewish people are now shifting those guns and moving them towards Hindus. And we are very surprised because this, there are, especially when actually did some, sort of data analysis at Rutgers University from a group called NCRI. It's called the Network Contagion Research Institute, that collects all the data, even from the dark web, and says, and tries to look for patterns of where they could be. They used to be trained for anti-Semitism, but they're using those same algorithms to look at what other kind of hate pockets are arising. And they are arising for Hindus, against Hindus now. And there is a lot of money coming surprisingly, from Iran. And there is money coming from Qatar. So there is that kind of funding that's going on, which is creating narrative, which is creating hatred. And then you start seeing this chatter arising on the dark web, on the internet, about sort of how to act against Hindus. Now, is the community awake still? I don't think so. I think 80% of the community is still asleep. I mean, I still remember going for dinners and asking people, "Hey, aapne wo caste bill dekha?" And 80% of the people I know have never heard about it. A lot of people who have heard about it don't really care much because they are like, "Ye to theek hai, the courts will handle it." What they don't recognize, because the community is still asleep, what they don't recognize is that this is a smear campaign. And if it is not nipped in the bud, the smear campaign is going to go on, and then it will start infiltrating academia, just the way anti-Semitism has infiltrated academia. It will start going into academia. They are going to use Modi as an anchor to say, here is a Hindutva fascist who has been oppressing Muslims. The whole narrative that's happening on US campuses. They have been training their guns against Hindus. But I have to give you the good news that they pulled the trigger too fast.
Okay.
We are waking up. We are waking up fast, and our kids, unlike the Jewish kids, actually the Hindu kids are actually quite Hindu. They are quite strong in their belief in what their parents are doing, in the goodness of what their parents are doing. They understand that these are smear campaigns, and they are organizing fast. I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised to see at Stanford lots and lots of young students of Indian origin who are resisting this kind of smearing. And but you're right that, I mean, we are waking up now, and we'll defeat them, Sanjay. As you know that we threw out the California caste bill by the governor. We got it thrown out. So the Indian community.
That's remarkable. That was
Yes.
remarkable.
Yeah.
That was quite remarkable.
There was I must say it was a multiple, set of people that worked on it. But at the end of the day, it also was important that there was that one phone call. And I can't give you the name publicly. I'll maybe tell you some other time. But there was that one phone call that went from that one person to the governor. And in my own book, I think that phone call mattered. So it's all very well for young engineers who are still salaried, to fight the battle. And they did. And I think they did a fabulous job. But I also think that, our big guns need to wake up, and they're waking up. So,
That's good. That's good to hear. But there's another something that you said about Islamophobia, and in the U.S. But how does an organization like CAIR pass under the radar? It is a Muslim Brotherhood organization, and Hamas in its charter. I think I would advise everybody to read the Hamas charter, what it says. The Hamas Charter is, of course, for the Jews explicitly, but it's for the entire world.
Of
They
course.
say that they will Islamize the entire world,
I think
and
the
they
listen. I
don't
think
want to leave anybody who is not Muslim alive anywhere.
agree. I
And they
agree.
also say that they are a wing of the Muslim Brotherhood.
True, true, true. But listen, the FBI is watching these people carefully. In America, they dare not. If they did, that would be the annihilation of another nation. Remember, after 9/11, America pretty much destroyed Syria and Iraq, right? One attack, and two nations were flattened out. So America is ruthless in fighting terrorism. It's ruthless. So they would not dare to do anything within the US. Yes, they have these books floating around. By the way, they have websites floating around. They are on the radar of the FBI. Everybody is watching them. Yeah, except for maybe once in a while going and killing somebody in a mall, one or two people who are stabbed or something. Overall, I don't see much of of a big attack happening in the US. But you're right that these books are out there. These toolkits are out there. What is scary is the toolkit. The toolkit of ISIS is being used by Hamas right now, and and I still can't believe that the American academia is not condemning these people.
No, they're supporting them.
I will
There's
piggyback on
rather,
Sanjay ji's.
I find that they're supporting them
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah,
They put in a narrative that supports these people, and nobody says that this is their. I haven't seen any major newspaper or any major mainstream media organization put out the Hamas Charter and point out, look, this is anti-humanity, anti-Jews specifically, anti-humanity overall. They want all of us killed,
true.
and Jews
That's
are
true.
just the beginning.
Right. That's true. And but the thing is, they again, once again, they spin it as saying, look, these are only extremists. Not all 1 billion Muslims are extremists. There's only only a small
Oh,
group.
well, they believe in
And,
the same book, and Hamas Charter quotes from the book,
yes, that is true. That is true. It
verse
is
and
scary.
chapter.
Yeah, it is true. It's true. If you look at the books by Ibn Waraq, who is a Pakistani scholar based in
Yes, 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 yes,
in
yes,
in
yes.
in London,
I've read
brilliant
a bit
scholar.
of him.
Brilliant scholar. You must take every book of his and really inhale it, because this man is absolutely brilliant in his scholarship. And he says that the problem is Islam. But can you imagine somebody like us saying it? The other day I tweeted something. I said the problem is not Muslims. The problem is not Muslims. The Muslims actually are the biggest victims of Islam. One has to read some of these books and say that no, this kind of stuff has to be reformed. But it's difficult to say this, and I'm saying it on to the audience. I'm sure many people are going to be looking at it. I think even if for my Muslim friends and family who are watching this, you must accept, in the name of God, you must accept that there are issues with certain books, with certain hadiths, and so on, and they are affecting millions and millions of young Muslim women. You must call the spade a spade, and you must bring it out, because unless that happens, how are we going to live together in a civilized world? This is to my Muslim friends and family, that you must talk about it. Our talking about it doesn't matter. Our talking about it just makes us look like phobic people. We are not. If I saw something in Hindu scripture which was a problem, I would talk about it. And you owe it to yourselves and to your families to talk about it.
That was a wonderful appeal, and I wanted to add to this to the viewers that please do watch Sanjay ji and myself do a show on the Hamas covenant. And once you read all the 36 articles, you realize that one of the articles, apart from other vicious ones, clearly stipulates do not accept any negotiated settlement, because which means that you are giving leverage to the kafir to control you. If that is the mandate, if that is the bookish, if that is the mentality, how can you ever get into a negotiated scenario?
Let me just interject here.
Sure.
It's not a mentality. It's a Quranic commandment.
Commandment, yeah.
Yes.
They follow what is called the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. And this Treaty of Hudaybiyah was a masterpiece in deception. And therefore, when this fellow Yasser Arafat accepted the negotiated settlement, and then he went for his first public meeting. He was booed very badly. And then he just uttered one word. He said, Hudaybiyah. Everybody fell silent. Everybody got the message that, okay, this is an exercise in deception.
That's right.
Yes.
The other thought that came to my mind is here is, United Nations is a defunct and dead body insofar as I'm concerned, other than the annual jamboree they hold on 25th of September every year. It means nothing. Look at this United States Security Council, United Nations Security Council, 3 NATO members and Russia and China on the other side. If these 5 powers are at such loggerheads with each other, how can they talk about peace anywhere? And this is the tragedy, because they are the biggest suppliers of weapons to everybody. Largest weapon sellers are these 5 Security Council members. So these weaponry that goes, the missiles and all these things, you could stop it any time. What is the deal here? Is it the military-industrial complex, the entire machinations, or the massive money coming in to stigmatize Jews, and then perhaps we are next? Your thoughts, Asha?
Vibhuti, repeat. What's the question, though?
The question is that the United Nations is supposed to maintain peace global and end conflicts. It has failed.
It is a toothless. Yeah,
it's a toothless
region.
one.
Yeah.
And the 5 Security Council members are at loggerheads with each other. So the question is here, what I asked you was, how will these people who are supplying 80% of the weapons to all the people in the world, in all the countries in the world, aren't they considered responsible? Shouldn't they take that upon themselves, that if we want to end war, you can end it tomorrow? Why aren't they stopping it? Or is it the military-industrial complex or the design?
So Vibhuti, one thing is for certain, you and I, we are going to be having lots more money in our pocket because of this war. Do you realize?
Yes.
Okay, that's the brutal truth. Okay, that America is definitely, we have a massive defense component. Yes, we have a military industrial base. I'm just looking at the markets. I was looking at the markets today. And the market is rewarding me right now for the fact that there's a war going on. Why? Because we all, have public, we dabble in the public markets, we have stocks in various companies, we work with all, major institutional banks. War is going to make us money. That's the truth. That's the truth about America. That's the truth about various other countries. I don't know about, the extent to which, this is true for, let's say, Russia or China right now. But in the US, people like us are going to be sitting on more money few months from now. As long as this war continues, and as long as the Ukraine war continues, all of us are going to be having a better market. We're going to be seeing a more robust Wall Street, and we are going to be seeing, increased spending on defense-related technologies, on this is, by the way, this is not something that I'm saying. This is true for many, many decades now. Every time there's a war, there is a bump in the market. There is there's a robustness in the market that arises simply because everybody knows that there is going to be reconstruction. So that's for sure. Now, in terms of what are these nations doing? Do they have a responsibility? Of course they don't. In the international system, there is no such thing as a higher authority. In the international system, it is for each state do its own. It is. I mean, to put it more crudely, it's a dog-eat-dog world in the international system. UN cannot. It does not matter. It does not matter for Ukraine. It will not matter for Israel. But what's going to happen is that there is going to be a profiteering that's going to happen because of this. If this war takes off, I don't think Israeli war will. I personally, if you ask me, I pray and I hope that it will not take off, because it will result in an obliteration of entire pockets of civilians. And so I think I hope it doesn't happen. If it happens, we are going to have a strong stomach to look at what's going to happen. It is going to be, I mean, personally, I believe that Hamas needs to be destroyed and taken out from the roots, but that's 150,000 human beings and 700,000 sympathizers. So that's a huge number of people that have to be taken out. And it's something that I don't have the stomach. I'll not, yeah, it's just not the stomach to understand how this will proceed. But the international community, especially those who are selling arms, they just don't care. For them, this isn't just another war. It will be over, and the world will go on.
As a result of which, what you said just now, I'm fearing U.S. fabric, our societies will fall apart, because the way the system is operating right now is very ruthless. I agree with you. However, the important part is there are certain narratives being played around. You have seen the Black Lives Matter, not Black, Antifa. They were giving slogans in New York University and other places. It's time for us to raise the, fight people who are wealthy. We are the people who are successful, consequently wealthy, are looked at as villains of the peace. So you were looking at a campus scenario, anti-Semitism. I don't think it is going to remain the same anymore, the relationships. It's out in the open. Whoever is successful is a villain of the peace. How do we address that scenario?
America is a very resilient society, Vibhuti, and it is run by the elite. America is not run by the bulk of the population. Right? It's the elite that runs this country. And the way the election system is structured, what democracy? Right? That's the truth. That's the truth.
A lot of people say that America is run by corporations.
It's run by the elite. The corporations are part of that mix. It is the elite. I actually see that, and it's a police state. It's a powerful police state. I don't think America is in any danger of falling apart, is out of question. But even this, whatever little we are seeing, the cracks in the system right now, they'll be taken care of very, very, very successfully, very, very smoothly. I'm already beginning to see the response to the anti-Semitism, to the infiltration of wokeness into American academia. Remember that these kids, 90% of these kids who will leave universities, where are they going to go? They're going to go into the capitalist machinery. They're going to be in banks. All these Harvard idiots who are going around, protesting, and cheering Hamas, where are they going to go? They're going to be sitting around in Goldman Sachs and in various banks and various other entities that are going to pay them six-figure, salaries. That's what these kids are going to. So their hooray is only for the 4 years that they are in college. Right after, you must see an article that came out. I think I sent it out on my Twitter by Tyler something. It documents the level of which, the level to which these kids, where do they go after college? Are they really affecting US corporate world? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they're going to be, they're going to be servicing the American capitalist machinery as they go out. And America is, so America is not a danger, Vibhuti. What is at danger right now is Europe. And the reason for that is Europe has not ruthlessly covered or contained its extremist populations. And I'm not going to say that these are necessarily jihadis. In Ireland, you had, the Irish Republican Army, which was, as badly jihadi as anybody else. So I think that Europe, yes, I'm worried because they don't know how to proceed. There is, there are different pockets now that are arising. So you go outside Paris, there are entire pockets which say white people are not allowed. Parisians are not allowed because those are Islamic pockets. They are run on Sharia law, and you cannot enter these pockets. So for this, they would not dare to do this in Michigan, which is the American pocket of Islamists, right? We have, Michigan is overrun actually to a large extent. But would they dare to impose Sharia law in Michigan? No way. informally, what might be happening is, yes, that the girls, I mean, what is really bothersome is the level of female genital mutilation that's going on in Michigan, which sickens me to my stomach. But they still would not dare to openly impose Sharia law in Michigan. But they're imposing it openly in Paris, right outside Paris, you know. So in Belgium, it's happening across the board. It's happening in Sweden. UK, of course, it's out of control. But thank God there's Rishi Sunak there, because he's not willing to take this kind of you know, extremism kind of a thing that's going on in UK. I think they'll act. I think while Rishi is there, he will strengthen the police apparatus of UK.
I am reminded of something that Prince Abdullah bin Nahyan of the UAE, who is now the brother of the president. At that time, he was the younger son of the then president, was also the emir of Abu Dhabi. So he said in a conference, and somebody asked him about the terrorists. He said that, look, I'm telling you, and I'm telling you in English so that you get it absolutely correct, that there are going to be more terrorists coming out of Europe in future than out of the Middle East. And that's because, he said, that's because you people are politically correct, you are indecisive, and you think that you know the Muslims, you know Islam and the Middle East better than we do. That's the problem. And these people, they keep inviting all the rejects of the Middle East countries, the Muslim countries, who would put all these wretches in their own prisons, and they invite them over to Europe only for the sake of cheap labor. And they don't even do any indoctrination because political correctness would not allow them. They, I think, some of the countries, probably Poland is very strict in this. And if you want to go into Poland, then you have to convert to Christianity. Maybe you can't go there as a Muslim. So people have to be politically, I wouldn't say politically incorrect, but they have to be pragmatic, not always politically correct. And they have to face the beast, not just try and appease the beast.
If you, Sanjay, if you do a poll and you ask people, okay, have you read the documents on which ISIS or Hamas operate from? Most have not. This is a problem.
I'm
And,
quite sure. Yes.
most have not. And I myself, I mean, I read some of this, it's actually very scriptural, sadly. That's the problem, because it is scriptural. It's, people say we don't want to go there because that's religion. I don't want to say anything about religion. And but it's sadly, that is something that everybody will have to call out. I think that, if the moderate Muslim pockets were empowered in certain parts of the world, if they were empowered to speak, and if they were not excommunicated, what will happen is, lay janta like you and me, who don't understand this stuff, we will understand all this stuff much better. And I actually have been just supporting in every way I can the ex-Muslim movements, started by young people. A lot of young Muslims in America are
Yes.
very,
Yes.
very.
It's a wonderful movement.
I'm very proud of them. They have been, the cost to them for leaving Islam is that they could get killed, right? Because Islam requires that if a Muslim leaves Islam, he or she has to be killed. It is the law of apostasy, which is, yes. And so when I meet these young kids on Stanford campus, and there is a big ex-Muslim, chapter on Stanford campus, I can tell you that these kids are inviting excommunication. They are inviting, violence on themselves, but they are leaving Islam. And the reason for that is there are multiple reasons for it. One is there is a growing understanding amongst young Muslims or young American Muslims. Okay, the low-hanging fruit would be the gay people. So if you are gay or if you are of a different gender, right, you cannot, as a Muslim, uh, there is no way you can live if you are a gay Muslim. You cannot be in the population. You cannot be in the community. There are, of course, there is scriptural advice for killing gays. So there is no way that you can be a Muslim and be gay and tell your family that you're gay. So I think part of the reason for this ex-Muslim movement that's happening is, I think, is the gay people are leading it for sure. The other reason that this might be happening is because of this whole idea that all non-Muslims need to be this whole Islamic thing that the world needs to be converted, and that there is only one God, and that's Allah. So that is not sitting well with young people. And the ex-Muslim movement is driven by this idea that they are saying, and these are Americans, right? These are American Muslims. They are saying that no, it's okay for somebody to pray to Jesus, or it's okay for somebody to pray to Krishna. I mean, what can we do? I want to share with you guys what happened once. There was an art and craft festival going in Palo Alto downtown. Okay, it was going on in downtown Palo Alto, and there was a very nice set of booths there with people selling Hare Krishna booklets, and somebody was selling the Jehovah's Witnesses, and there was the Falun Gong booklets, and then there was an Islamic booth also. And I actually went to the checked out Falun Gong, and then I said, let me look at what the Islamic booth is doing. And they were giving out booklets on the Prophet's life and the Quran and this and that, which was all very well. Then I spoke to the young man who was in the booth, who was manning the booth, American Indian. I have a feeling his family is from India actually, but this boy was born and brought up here, about 27. I actually got his phone number and everything. I started having a conversation with him, and I pushed him a little bit. I told him, I said, look, I respect your religion. I respect that you have your God. I told him that I have my God. And I don't think that I would ever believe in, some other God. I mean, I'm a Hindu, and I don't believe in this whole idea of kind of, that there is only one God, this, that. I'm never going to convert. What are you going to do with me? He said, I'm going to try and convert you. I said, technically, in principle, theoretically, what would you do? No, so first thing he said is, I'm going to convert you. My job, he said, my sacred duty is to try to convert you. I said, it's impossible. I'm not going to convert. What are you going to do? He said, then I'm going to have to kill you. He said this to me on my face. I have his phone number and everything. By the way, he is a young man who lives in San Jose, works at a San Jose mosque. But he told me in the middle of an art and craft festival downtown Palo Alto that he would have to kill me if I didn't convert. So I think that this is an American kid, and how many such kids are there? That incident has left a scar in me forever. And every year when it happens, the same booth is there. Sometimes the same guy is there, and the funny thing is he remembers me. So I don't know how dangerous he is, but he remembers me. And so I just think that if a young American man can get this, indoctrinated in San Jose, it's a scary thing. So the ex-Muslim movement, as I was to come back to them, I think are the bravest, most courageous people in our country here in the United States. And these are young people who are driving this effort to leave Islam. And I think all of us need to talk to them, support them, and let them have a voice. Make sure that they speak and say that, it is also the sacred duty that, there is one line in the Quran which says there is no compulsion in religion.
Oh, that's you have to read. You have to read the whole verse. That's only the first sentence. You want me to read it?
Yeah, sure, Sanjay. What does it say?
I'll read you. This is, of course, I remember it's 2 point. 256. Okay, this is Al-Baqarah 256. I have it by heart almost. This is okay, 256. Let's take an English translation. Okay, Pictol is very popular. Let's take Pictol. Okay, there is no compulsion in religion. First sentence. Okay, they only quote this much. Now, the verse goes, the right direction is henceforth distinct from error. Okay, what it means is that Islam is the right religion. There is no compulsion in religion,
Right,
but
right.
the right direction is henceforth distinct from error. And he who rejecteth false deities and believeth in Allah hath grasped a firm handhold which will never break. Allah is the hearer and the knower. Oh, this is the entire verse.
It is
Now, this
tricky.
is
It is
not
tricky. Yeah.
this is not all. You have to also see what it says in 255 and 254. In 254, it says that one who is an unbeliever is the oppressor.
Oh,
This is in 254.
I didn't
And
know this.
255, it says, in 255, it says that there is only one God that can be worshipped. There are no partners to him.
Yes.
Anybody who ascribes partners to him is his enemy, is an oppressor, is a persecutor. And all of these are punishable by death.
That's the part. That's what.
Even the methods are prescribed.
Yeah.
One
True.
hand, cut one hand first, then opposite side leg, then the other hand and the opposite side leg. All those sorts of graphic descriptions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
5.33.
See, this is nobody.
Piggybacking on what Sanjay ji said just now, I
Yeah.
wanted to add to that is you will be glad to know, Asha, you talked about ex-Muslims, and we have hosted several ex-Muslims on our show, and many times we look forward to having, because we like to have, as you rightly said, we love to know more about what is there, and that's where my thought comes. We have also talked about that conversion is a sin against God's original intent. If God wanted me to be anything other than Vibhuti, he could have done it like this, right? But he made me who I am. So converting one person to another religion is
Yeah.
a sin against God's original intent. And third, and the final thing that I wanted to add here was that
That's your
doesn't mean
interpretation. That's not their
does it
interpretation.
not mean that any effort to bring about Islamophobia bill will end freedom of speech as we know it in democracies, then you can't talk about that at all. That's the reason that Sanjay ji pointed out about the various surahs, is that if you know the whole thing.
Actually, they have three. They have
Yeah.
always. They will give you three examples. This is one is this. There is no compulsion in religion. This is 2.256. Then there is 109. This surah number 109. It's called Al Kafirun, and there it says that your religion for you and my religion for me. They quote it, but they never tell the context, because the context is very different there. Over there, Muhammad was offered reconciliation, that okay, we will pray to your God, you pray to our God, and he said no, that's not on. Your religion for you or mine for me. So the intolerance was on this side. And there's a third one, 5.32, that anybody who's killed one human is probably killed the whole humanity or something like that. But there is a caveat there. It says, unless he has done any mischief. And mischief, you know what is mischief? Not believing in Allah is the biggest mischief. So these are the
This is a
three,
huge problem.
the
Yeah.
peaceful verses that they quote, and this is the reality.
And that's what Ilhan Omar and Tlaib do not want the world to know. That's why they are trying to push America into accepting Islamophobia. It is in this context that I was little struck by President Biden equating anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in the same sentence. That's a matter of concern for.
But Vibhuti, in your view, how do we bring about this conversation? How do we, what Sanjay just quoted, right, from the surahs and the verses on, how do we enable ex-Muslims to talk about this and say, look, this is why we left Islam, okay? And that this is not about Islamophobia. It's about the truth. It's about the fact that there is a young man is standing in downtown Palo Alto, looking at a strong venture capitalist like me and saying, "Madam, I'll have to kill you." This has to be brought out. This has to be spoken about. How do we get the ex-Muslims to talk about it? Just people like us talking about it is not going to matter.
Oh, I said to you that
they come to Jaipur Dialogues quite
they
often.
Come to our show, yes. Yeah.
I must be having at least 24 shows on Jaipur Dialogues with ex-Muslims. In fact, one of them is gone a little silent, but he is a masterclass on Quran, and he proves with example that the Quran cannot be the word of God. So his name is Sachwala. Right now he's a little bit down in the sense that he's not coming forth too much. But then there are others. I've just done a podcast with this Sahil guy. You can see that. Sahil, ex-Muslim.
Yeah.
And they're very clear. These people, they're wonderful. But we give them a platform.
Good.
In spite of a number of warnings and things and a threat of legal actions and all that.
Right. No, but that's good. I'm glad you're doing that. The biggest victims actually are the Muslims. They are the ones. See the girls, the women there, the girls. They're in deep trouble. I've been to Pakistan, as you guys know, and I've seen firsthand what goes on there. Two of my fellows out of just 40, two of my women entrepreneurs died under mysterious conditions. There wasn't even a police case for that. Nothing. Two of my technically qualified, one woman was in the robotics, the other one was in software. They both died, and the response was, she's gone to Allah. I said, well, where is the police case? Somebody find out, because these ladies were in their 30s. What happened? So the biggest casualty of this kind of an ideology actually are the Muslim women. And the more we can get these ex-Muslims to talk about this, the better.
In addition to ex-Muslims, I may interject here, in America itself, we are seeing that the government kind of protects the people who are adhering to hardcore Islam. Otherwise, how do we explain Ilhan Omar and Tlaib spewing venom against false things as well, including the Gaza hospital blow up, which we now know was not done by Israel. But Ayaan Ali Hirsi, for speaking out or telling the truth, gets sidelined, ignored by Brandeis University and the universities in Boston. She loses job for doing that. And that's what is important, that, like Sanjay ji pointed out earlier, CARE, we know. It doesn't care for anybody else. It may have an acronym called CARE, but it doesn't care for anybody else. They are banned organizations, declared militant organizations by UAE and Saudi Arabia. But they're having a home here.
Egypt. Muslim Brotherhood is banned in Egypt.
Yeah.
And we Americans encourage them and allow them to do that. How do we reconcile with that?
I think it's not that America allows their, I think, listen, the First Amendment, freedom of speech, these same sort of more extremist groups are using American law to make sure that they, that they circumvent the system and they spread this ideology. But the US is turning a blind eye for now. But the minute this starts threatening us here locally, I think they'll crack down. The FBI will. I'm not too worried about the US, but the problem is that people like CARE and ISNA are getting huge amounts of funding. That's the problem. They're getting funding from Qatar and some other Arabic states. This is a problem. And look at what they've done now on campuses.
Yeah. Sanjay?
Right. So I think time to wind up. It's midnight here.
Sanjay,
It's daytime here.
thank you for staying awake for so long, Sanjay, and wish you all the best on the conference that you are hosting.
Yes.
Thank you, Ashaji. Thank
And
you,
I'm
for
happy to
all your
share
help.
with you that it has a remarkable assembly of people. And I'm privileged to be going for that, and I'll be moderating a particular event there. So looking forward to that very, very, very excitedly. That's all I'll say. Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Viewers, please like, subscribe, and support our channel. We bring you stories and conversations which very few dare to have. And so from that point of view, Ashaji, thank you very much for joining for the first time, Jaipur Dialogue and Jaipur Dialogue USA. Please join us again. And Sanjayji, I don't need to thank you. We are partners in crime. So we will carry on the voice and the
Thank,
voice of everybody. Thank you very much.
thank you,
Thank
and
you.
good night.
And as I always end the show, I always say, Satyamev Jayate. And for Satyamev Jayate, for truth to triumph, you and I have to stand for the truth and be counted. Protect and defend the truth. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.